Most people don't have as much experience with death as I do. Like most of us, I have lost loved ones, but as a hospice social worker, I've also walked the path of dying with many, many people. I try to provide comfort and assess needs to smooth the journey. If I can help you have these conversations, we can grow together and build a stronger community. Margaret Mead noted that when someone's born, we rejoice. When someone is married, we celebrate. But when someone dies, we pretend that nothing happened. It's common in our culture to avoid the topic or use other words when discussing death. We are confused or frightened or uneasy with the subject and with how to talk about it. Many books have been written about death and dying, and you may have read more of them than I have. Most of my knowledge is from experience and observation. As a social worker, I work with the patient as well as the family as they define it. Often the patient is tired of being ill and in pain and is prepared for death. This was the case with my father, who died in November after making it clear that he was ready. Many family members are also ready for their loved ones' suffering to end. But suffering doesn't end at death for them. They must find a way to go on with the hole that is left in their lives, and anticipatory grief is the most common emotional issue I deal with. Spirituality is usually a comfort for people who are dying and their loved ones. Some people speak of feeling closer to God or to loved ones who have died, and a belief in heaven and afterlife or reincarnation can help reconcile the loss of relationships with the living for ill people and for their families. I have also met people whose beliefs cause them to fear death because they don't believe they are right with God. And hospice services include a spiritual counselor who will work to help them find peace. I always encourage people to utilize their spiritual beliefs and practices to help cope with what they're experiencing. For example, music, prayer, or meditation may help get through physical and emotional pain. You will also have talked to people who are dying and their loved ones, and I admit these conversations can be hard. Sometimes we hope for a reconciliation or resolution with a loved one before death, and it can be really disappointing when that doesn't happen. Some people just can't have that conversation, and many people become more narrowly focused on themselves when they're very sick. It would be nice to find answers before death, but it doesn't always happen. In this way, death is a lot like life. Many of you hope to visit and provide comfort when you hear someone is very ill and you're not sure what to say or do. Always call ahead and make sure your visit is welcome and timing is good. Be sensitive to their needs. The sick person may tire quickly and their family may need to talk for a while. If people don't want to visit, you can offer to stop by with something and leave it. Try to avoid platitudes, for although it may be true that at least the suffering will end, it may not be true that everything's going to be okay. When you do visit, if you aren't comfortable discussing feelings, you can express sympathy and offer help. Families often need someone to sit in the home while they get out and have some free time or run errands. If you're willing to help physically, I have met many people who are unable to turn or move their loved one as needed and need regular help with this. You can offer meals or help getting groceries or walking the dog or caring for the house or the yard. Most people will not ask you to do these things if you just say, "Let me know if there's anything I can do." Sit with them. Talk about shared memories. Ask about favorite memories of theirs. Many people yearn for touch. Please try this if you're able. If you are comfortable talking about emotions, you can ask, "How are you feeling about all this?" Or say, "I'm so sorry you're having to go through this. Do you want to talk about it?" It may take some prodding. Some will refuse, but some will be very glad to talk about their struggles, and the things they're struggling with may surprise you. Many things can change when a spouse dies, for example, including finances and living arrangements. and this may be causing great concern. Many who are dying worry more about their families than themselves. And you can sympathize and offer to check on the families, help them find resources, or spend time with them as you are willing and able. Speak from the heart, touch, cry, make a space for them to lead you in conversation. People whose existence has become limited by illness sometimes enjoy sharing stories of their life, and people with dementia usually remember their childhood best. Ask about family, travel, hometown, music, or whatever you think might bring happy memories. It may be helpful to reassure, it's okay, I'm right here. You're safe and I'm right here. Playing music from our youth sometimes helps us remember. Many families wait until illness strikes to begin talking about advanced directives and feelings about death. Unfortunately, this is a time when emotions can make these conversations very difficult. I encourage people to start talking when they're well and keep talking periodically as the subject arises naturally. This can make the conversation increasingly relaxed and meaningful. I attended a workshop at the UU General Assembly in Portland last year, conducted by the Conversation Project, and they produce free materials that help guide these discussions. Their starter kit at theconversationproject.org points out that while most people agree that talking to family and doctors about their wishes and putting them in writing is important, most people do not follow through effectively. I can tell you from my experience that this can put a terrible burden on families and hamper efforts to honor those wishes. If advance directives aren't in writing, families can be torn apart by emotional efforts to reconcile varying emotions about end-of-life decisions. And if advance directives aren't reinforced by the designation of a medical power of attorney to assert those wishes, there's a good chance they will be disregarded. It is critically important that everyone who wants any limitations put on their end-of-life care prepares a living will and designates a medical power of attorney with backup designees. Though state law provides for surrogate decision makers if we become incapacitated, doctors are only required to make a reasonable effort to locate those individuals. If you provide your doctor with a POA document, it will give specific contact information about the loved ones you believe can speak best for you. And the Conversation Project kit helps you talk to your POAs so they know your feelings as well as your written words about what is most important to you. Remember, as long as you have the capacity to make and articulate your own decisions, these documents do not come into use. Many people are able to make their wishes known until they choose hospice care, at which point most of the big treatment decisions become irrelevant and only comfort care is desired. The saddest part about working in hospice is that people wait too long or never elect hospice services. I meet people who have been struggling for months to care for a dying loved one who only gets the benefit of our help for a few days or weeks. A doctor can make a referral to hospice for anyone with a terminal diagnosis and a likely prognosis of 6 months or less, as long as they're no longer receiving curative treatment for that diagnosis. This is a free Medicare benefit and does not preclude medical treatment for other ailments the person may have. The huge majority of hospice care is provided at home, wherever that is, and includes support for the whole family, however you define it. Nurses visit regularly and have 24-hour access to doctors who can adjust medications quickly as needed. Social work, spiritual care, volunteers, as well as aides who bathe several times weekly are all part of the service. What Medicare doesn't pay for is caregiving, and this falls to family or the resources of the patient. This comes as a terrible shock to many people, as aged spouses are called upon to provide ambulation support and personal care they are not physically or emotionally prepared to provide. Long-term care insurance is designed to help with this, but usually doesn't kick in until you've been paying for help for months. Helpful friends can be a true blessing in these circumstances. Electing hospice is not a death sentence. I've had patients stay on service for years, as long as their condition continues to decline, and I've had many patients graduate from hospice after their condition improves. We help with all kinds of community resources and provide bereavement services for at least a year after the patient dies. It is an honor to have the chance to enrich people's lives by providing loving, personalized care. We're all dying. I choose not to worry about it, but I do believe in planning and utilizing the resources available to me, including my spiritual practices, to help me deal with grief and loss. If you have questions or need resources, I hope you will seek answers from me, your pastoral care team, or someone you trust. That wasn't so bad, was it?